In this video, I'm going to show you a free auto posting platform that you can use to schedule and post all of your content to social media. It works with all the popular platforms, and there's a completely free version that has a built-in UI that you can use to schedule your content, or you can manage and schedule all of that content through their API. And you can totally eliminate the monthly subscriptions that you pay for Buffer or Hootsuite or Metricool. And it totally replaces Airshare, a popular social media platform that provides a social media API, which is actually a great platform. They do have great support, but a lot of people do complain about their pricing. So with Mixpost, you can launch your own self-hosted server and get their interface and the API for free. So in this video, I'll show you how to install Mixpost from scratch. I'll also show you how you can build out your own Airtable database to store all of your content and publish across all of the various channels, manage the title and the media and the status of your content, whether it's just an idea or if it needs to be published or scheduled. And then I'll show you how to build the make automations that will take the content from Airtable and drop it off into Mixpost through their API. Now, some of the things that I like about Mixpost is that it's self-hosted. That means that I can install it and I don't have to pay a monthly subscription. If I do decide to pay for the more advanced version, you only have to pay once and you can use it forever. There are no limits. It's open source. That means you can change it if you want. You own all of the data. It's not sitting on someone else's server. And if you're an agency, you can also white label this so that your clients can sign up and you can manage their accounts. And it does look like they are having a promotion right now if you are interested in their paid version. And even their paid version is only $2.99. It's a one-time payment. You don't ever have to pay again and you can continue to use it forever. But if you do want to be able to get updates, then you'll pay $2.39 per year. And they also do have an enterprise plan. This is going to be for larger agencies or people that are building SaaS businesses around social media posting. But you can also just start with the free version. Now you can check out their webpage to check out the exact different features that each level has, but they've got a lot of cool features that are built in, like analytics, your calendars. You can build out different templates, connect a bunch of different accounts, store all of your media. And again, they support all of the major platforms more than a lot of the other paid services do. You really want to check out their website. They've got a lot of cool features. They have this concept of a queue where you can just build a pool of content and it'll just post one piece of content from that queue on a given schedule on your calendar. They have multilingual support. You can have different workspaces for different brands. It's really worth coming to their website and checking out all the features for yourself. All right, so first I'm going to show you how to install Mixpost so that you have the user interface. You can manage all of your content. You can upload media. I'll connect up Twitter. Then I'll show you how to build out the Airtable database to manage the content. And then I'll show you how to hook it all up to your make automations. All right, so let's go ahead and install Mixpost. This is pretty easy to do as long as you follow the instructions. I'm going to go to resources. I'm going to go to docs. I'm going to come up here to self-hosting. Now, if you just want to experiment, I would go with the Mixpost Lite instructions. This is the instructions for installing the free version. I'm going to go ahead and use the instructions for Mixpost Pro. The only real difference between this installation and the Lite installation is that I'm going to put in the purchase key that I got when I purchased the Pro version. So now before we can install this, we do need a server. I'm going to go ahead and use the Docker instructions for building out my server that will host Mixpost. So I'm going to come here and click into the install Mixpost Pro with Docker. Now, again, the only difference between this Pro install and the Lite is that I already have a license. You'll just skip that step when I get to it. So now they already assume that you have a server and it's very likely that you don't. So what I recommend doing is going to a platform called DigitalOcean. This is a low-cost host that'll allow you to launch your own servers. And it's really easy to do. I'll show you how. If you don't already have an account, you'll need to sign up. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Now, if this is a brand new account, you'll need to create a project. I'm going to go ahead and use an existing one that I already have. I'm going to come up to create and I'm going to create a new droplet. You can leave most of these default settings as they are. I'm going to go with Ubuntu, the default version. I'll go with a shared CPU. I'm going to move some of these options down to cheaper options. I'll go ahead and use this server here. This is just $12 a month. You could probably get away with this as well, but I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. You don't need to worry about additional storage. If you're serious about using Mixpost, you'll probably want to enable backups, but you can do this later. We're going to go ahead and choose the password authentication method. Using SSH keys is more secure, but it's a bit more complicated. So for this video, we'll just use a password. You can leave these off for now. You'll want to keep this at one droplet. I only have one project, so it's putting that in the APIs project. And with that, you can go ahead and create your droplet. This is going to take a second to build out. And once it's done, we're going to need that IP address so that we can create a domain name to point to our new server. While this is getting built out, let's talk a bit about that. So I'm in my DNS hosting platform called Cloudflare. They do a lot of other things besides just host domains, but I'm going to use my contentengine.io domain, and I'm going to create a subdomain so that I can go to that domain and it's going to load up my new server and allow us to log into our own instance of Mixpost where we can manage everything, our accounts and everything else. So it looks like our new server here is completed. I want to come to this IP address and I'm going to copy it. There's a little link that will pop up. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come back to Cloudflare. I'm going to select the specific domain I want to manage. I'm going to go over to DNS and I'm going to add a new record. We're going to add a record. For the name, I'm going to go ahead and put in Mixpost YouTube. And then for the IP address, I'm going to paste in the IP address that I got from my new droplet on DigitalOcean. Now, if you're familiar with Cloudflare, they have this concept of a proxy with your DNS entries. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. If you're not using Cloudflare, you probably won't even see that. And for TTL, I'm going to go with auto. And with that, I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and click save. So now what we need to do is actually set up this server. So again, I already have the IP address. If you're on a Mac, you'll want to open up the terminal. If you're on a PC, there is an equivalent way to get access to your terminal. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and type SSH root at, and then the IP address of our new server. Going to go ahead and click enter. We'll go ahead and type yes. And then we need to put in our password that we set up when we were creating the server. And if you typed it in right, you should be logged into your new server. It should give you this login information here and then leave you at this prompt. If you hit enter a bunch of times, it'll just continue to show you a new prompt. And so now what we need to do is come back to Mixpost. And so we already took care of the DNS setup in Cloudflare where we added the A record to Mixpost-YouTube and to our new IP address. So now what we need to do is install Docker. And to do this, all we need to do is to come to this section of code here, and we're going to copy it by clicking this button here. You're going to see that little checkbox. Then we can come back to our terminal. We simply paste that into the terminal and hit enter. That is going to install Docker, which is a program that will allow us to install Mixpost. It's going to ask us if we want to continue. Go ahead and click yes. This is going to take a bit of time to run. Looks like it's done. Then you'll want to move here to install the Docker packages. This didn't actually install Docker. It actually just set it up to install. So here we'll come to the copy button here and we'll come back to the terminal. We'll paste that into the terminal and hit enter. Again, you'll want to go ahead and continue. This is going to take a bit of time to run. Be patient, let that finish, and then we'll be back at the prompt. All right, so now we're done and we're back at the prompt here so we can come back to the instructions. So the next thing we need to do is create a Docker compose file. So we need to create a file on this server named dockercompose.yml, and we need to put these contents below inside that file. So I'm going to just grab this file name so I don't misspell it, copy that. And now I'm going to run a program called VI. I'm just going to type VI and then I'm going to paste the name of that file. It's going to bring me to this text editor. Now this text editor is not necessarily easy to use. I'm only going to use a couple of commands, which I recommend that you follow. Just do what I do and it should work just fine. So next up, I'm going to come back to the instructions here and now I'm going to copy this here. I'm going to come back to the terminal. Now I'm just going to type I, which allows me to insert. Now we can see this little insert popped up. And now I should just be able to copy that entire file into this new text file that we created. And now I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to hit colon. You can see that little colon down here. I'm going to type W for write. It wrote that file. You can see it wrote it with the name that we needed. And then I'm going to hit a colon again. And then I'm going to hit Q for quit. And I'm back at the prompt again. If you get really stuck on VI, there are other easier editing tools to use to create this file. But as long as you do what I did there, you should be okay. So let's come back to our instructions. I'm going to scroll down. And so here they also have some special instructions for Cloudflare. Make sure to pay attention to this if you are on Cloudflare. Next up, we're going to create an environment variable similar to the Docker compose file. In this case, it's going to be named .env. Let's go ahead and copy the contents of this file here. I'm going to come back to the terminal. Again, I'm going to type VI space. Now I'm going to type .env. It's important that you do name it exactly as I have here. Go ahead and click enter. Then we're going to hit I again for insert. We should see the insert down here. I'm going to go ahead and paste in the contents. Remember, I grabbed those from this copy button here. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And so now in this file, there are a few things that we do need to update. So here we have the license key. If you're using the free version, you won't need to worry about this. I'm going to jump back and grab my key. I'm logged into my account on Mixpost. I bought the pro version. I'm going to go ahead and copy that key. I'm going to paste that right here. For app name, you can leave that as is. For this app key, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this URL here into my browser. And then I'm going to copy this code that was generated back into the terminal right here. Now here is where we need to put in the domain of our server. So remember, in the DNS settings, I used Mixpost-YT for YouTube, and it's at contentengine.io. And notice it gave the specific instructions without the HTTP or HTTPS prefix. So you just want that domain. So again, if we come back to our DNS records, remember we have the Mixpost-YT, and we added that to our contentengine.io domain name. It's important to get these things right. It makes the install process very easy. But if you get something wrong, something isn't going to work, and it's harder to debug why. I'm going to scroll down here to the database password. I'm going to go ahead and put in Mixpost test 123 PW. You'll want to pick something that is more secure. This is just for this demo. Keep going down here. Don't think we need anything for the SMTP. We can leave these other items here as well. For the SSL email, I am going to go ahead and put in steven@contentengine.io. Just going to double check that I have everything that I need. Got the domain name, the app key, the license key, the app domain, the DB password, and the SSL email. All right, so if you have everything there, you can go ahead and hit the escape button. Then again, you're going to hit the colon and then W. It's going to write the file. Then we hit colon again, and we hit Q, and we're back at the prompt. We can come back to our Mixpost instructions. So the next thing we need to do is to start Docker. So we're going to use this command here, docker compose up-d. We can go ahead and copy that here. Come back to the terminal, going to paste that in. I'll go ahead and run that. It's going to download a bunch of different things here. You're going to allow that to finish. So once you see that's completed, then it's going to leave you back at the prompt. And now just remember that even though this completed, there still might be a few things that are happening in the background that will take a few moments before your server comes up. If you want to check out the logs, you can copy this one here, and I can paste this to see what's happening. So you can see here, it was still downloading some things, still actually finishing up some of the different aspects of the install. Yeah, these are all important things. If you tried to access the server before any of these things, then the server just wouldn't come up. So Mixpost has started. I believe that means that we are good to go. So to test your install, you would just come up to your browser. You're going to type the name of your new domain. In my case, it's Mixpost-YT for YouTube.contentengine.io. And there we are. We have our own version of Mixpost. It's going to ask you to create the first user. I'm going to go ahead with Steven, put in my email address, put in my password. I'll go ahead and create that user, and it will log me in. And now we're ready to go. All right, so now that we have Mixpost installed, there are a few other things that we need to do. So they have all of these different services: Facebook, Threads, Google, Pinterest, LinkedIn, TikTok, X, and more. But for each of these different platforms, you have to create an app on their platform and then put those different credentials here for each of the different platforms that you see along the top here. So in this video, I'll go ahead and set up X. X is one of the platforms that they support on their free version. Now, all you have to do is just follow this documentation, but I'll walk you through it. To create the Twitter app, you do need to have a Twitter developer account, and there is a free version. If you don't yet have an account, there's a link right here. And again, you can access this documentation here through this link on each of the different services respectively. So if you don't have that Twitter developer account, go ahead and click here and create that, and then you'll come back here. So I already have a project that I built out before, so I'm going to come in here and just delete it, delete the app. Then I'm going to come back here and just follow the instructions. By the way, here was a screenshot that indicated where you can get the free Twitter developer account. You don't have to subscribe to this $100 a month plan. Make sure to get the free version. Looks like there's a development agreement you'll need to sign. Some special instructions here if you are building a SaaS platform, but if you're just signing this up for using Mixpost internally, then you don't have to do that. So I'm going to come here and go ahead and add a new app. I'm going to call it Mixpost. We'll go ahead and click next. Looks like that's already taken, so I'll put dash Steven. Doesn't really matter for this test, so go ahead and click next. I'm gonna go ahead and leave these as is. I'm gonna reset those in just a second. So I'm gonna come back to the app settings. Next, we need to set up these user authentication settings. So I'm gonna come back here to the user authentication settings. I'm gonna go to setup. We're gonna set this to read and write. For the type of app, we're gonna use web app right here. So here's where we need to add in our domain name. So I'm going to jump to my server right here, and I'm going to grab this URL here. Just this part here where it's the HTTPS, the : mixpost-yt.contentengine.io/mixpost. Going to grab that whole piece there. Going to drop that right here. And I'm going to come back to the instructions here. And what they want in addition to what we just posted there is this text here, which is /callback/Twitter. I'm going to copy that. Going to come back here and add that to the end. So now I have the entire domain /mixpost/callback/Twitter. And then for the website URL, I'll just use my own website. And then it looks like everything else here is optional. So I'll go ahead and click save. Go ahead and click yes. Now you can go ahead and save these two values here, your client ID and your client secret. You might need them later. Once you've done that, go ahead and click done. Then you'll be back here and you'll want to come up to the keys and tokens. We're going to come here to API key and secret. We're going to regenerate those. Go ahead and regenerate. Then we're going to take this API key and we will copy it into our Twitter settings here. API key, we'll drop that in, and the API key secret, drop that in here. And we're using the free tier. We'll go ahead and click active, and then we'll click save. Down here it says the service has been saved. So now we can come up here and create a workspace. Going to go ahead and create a workspace for myself. This is where you can have a collection of accounts. We'll go ahead and create. So this is going to create a key here that we can use in our API calls. We'll use those in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and copy that to a safe spot. So now from here, I'm going to come up to workspaces, and I'm going to open up this little icon here that is going to open up this specific workspace. So then I can actually add an account. Now, the only account that's going to allow me to add is Twitter, because that is the only service that we have connected so far. So I'm going to add an account. Notice it's going to tell us that we haven't configured the other services, but I'm going to go ahead and add an account. It's going to show us Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and click connect a new profile. Then we can authorize the app. And now we have properly linked up and configured X and a new workspace. All right, so now before we actually try to build out an Airtable database and hook up any sort of make automations, I think it's always better to just test to make sure everything's working. Can we actually post to our Twitter account using the API that we get with installing Mixpost? Let's go ahead and test that. I like to use a platform called Postman. This is a free application that you can download. You can go to postman.com and you can create an account and download the application. I prefer to use the actual application that you download. They will allow you to use their website, but there are some limitations. But I have a template here that you can download. It's in the description below. There's a link. You click on it. It's going to open this up, and it's going to give you 4 test API calls that you can use that are already set up. All you have to do is change your URL and your specific API key. And then you can test to make sure that everything's working before you actually try to build out anything more complex like an Airtable database or make automations. So again, I'm back here in Postman, and I'm going to start with this API call here, get accounts. Now I do need to change the URL here and also the API key. These are old. They were a different test that I was working on. So here for me, all I need to do here is change this from test to Mixpost-YT, and then the rest of this is the same. You'll need to change the domain name, and actually I also need to change the workspace ID right here, and you'll need to change that as well. That's in between API and accounts. So I'm going to come back to Mixpost. Again, we already clicked into a specific workspace. So this is the workspace ID that I need right here in the URL. And again, before I move on, just to help you navigate, right now I'm in a specific workspace. If I want to get back to the main admin console, you can come down here. You can click admin console. This is going to take you back to the main setup screen where you can add services and create workspaces. But if you want to access a specific workspace, you click into that workspace and then you can expand it here. And again, that workspace ID is right there. So I'm going to come back to Postman. I'm going to update this here. So now I've got my new domain name, the Mixpost/API, the workspace ID, and then we're going to access the accounts. So what this API call will do is it will retrieve a list of all of the accounts we've added into Mixpost. In this case, I have one Twitter account that I added. So I do need to also update this bearer token here. I'm going to come back to Mixpost. I'm going to come down to access tokens. I'm going to create a new token. We'll have this never expire. My token. We'll go ahead and create, making me put in my password. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in a safe spot. And then I'm also going to come back to Postman. I'm going to add that here, take away this existing one. And now I should be able to run this and get a list of accounts for this specific workspace. So I'll go ahead and click send. And it looks like everything came back. We've got one account. It's my Twitter account, and the ID of that account is 1. And I'm showing you this because we actually need that account ID for being able to actually post content as well. But you should get this back. You should see a 200 response. That means everything's okay. And so now what we can do is we can actually make sure we can make a post here. I'm going to use this API call here. Now, again, before I can use this, I do need to update everything here. So I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to grab everything that's before that last slash. I'm going to leave that because that part is going to be different. I'm going to come back here to the posts. I'm going to remove everything here, replace it. Make sure I don't have 2 slashes here at the end. So now I've got the correct domain name here. Just need to copy over the correct bearer token as well. We'll just copy everything. Gonna put this in here. You know, while I'm at it, I'm just gonna do this to all of these. You might as well do the same as well. And then the domain name and this media one here. And you will notice that if there's a little red dot, that means that they're not saved. So if you do want to save them, you want to hit Control S or Option S. I'm not sure which one it is. But now if I come back to the post here, we updated the authorization. We come to the body. So now all this is going to do is it's going to make a single post immediately to Twitter. You can set this up so it goes out on a specific schedule. This specific test here is going to post that immediately. And the contents is going to be what is in this body here. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this to, this is my first test tweet using Mixpost. So now, as long as I've copied over the URL correctly, I'm posting to the post endpoint. Remember, we only copied this section here. I updated the bearer token. So this should send this tweet to Twitter. So let's go up here to send. Looks like we got something back from our API. If I come back to Mixpost, look at the post, looks like we have something scheduled. It looks like it's just processing here just for a second before it actually gets posted out to Twitter. Just refreshed, now it's published. Come to my Twitter account, refresh here, and there we are. This is my first test tweet using Mixpost. I'll go ahead and delete that. And now I'm gonna come back to Postman real quick. And now I'm gonna show you can also post an image. Now, in order to post an image, you actually have to first upload some media into Mixpost. So I have another API call here. And again, I've already updated the URL here and also the headers with the bearer token. So all you have to do to test this one out is you need to have an image available. And then you come down to this API media. We're going to go to the body here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to update this file here. So if you come here to the value, I'm going to use this here, new file from local machine. I'm just going to upload one of these images here. And then I should be able to go ahead and click send. It successfully uploaded this image to Mixpost so that now I can use it with a actual post. So I'm going to come up to this endpoint here, post image. And again, remember, I already updated the URL here and the headers to the bearer token. So this API call is simply making a tweet and is making reference to the image, and it's referencing that media here. So it's using media ID 1 with this post. So if we come back here to media, we just uploaded an image. And so if this is the first image, it'll be 1. And that is the image I'm referencing here in this post. My first image post with Mixpost using media that I uploaded. So let's give this a test. We'll go ahead and click send. Looks like it's scheduled. Come back to Mixpost. We can see that it's scheduled here. It's got that media that I uploaded and it's got the text. We can see that it's scheduled. It should just take just a second to post as it gets processed in our Mixpost server. And now it's published. So if I come over to Twitter and refresh, we can see this is my first image with Mixpost that I uploaded, and here's that image. So not an image that I'd really want to post, but for testing, it worked great. So now we know using Postman that our installation of Mixpost is working and we're actually actually able to post to Twitter. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and move to creating an Airtable database that we can put in content and publish straight from there. And if you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It tells me what type of content you want more of. All right, so now I have a brand new Airtable database. This is what you get when you first create a brand new table from scratch. So let's go ahead and build out a database that we can use where we can plan and create and store our content. And then when we're ready, we can schedule it using a make automation and then ultimately post it into our new system and have that post automatically to Twitter. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to go ahead and rename this tab here to content. Go ahead and save it. Then I'm going to go ahead and change this first column here to an ID field. And we'll just make it an auto number field. And then in this next field here, I'm going to go ahead and change this to caption, and we'll leave it as a long text. This is where we can put the text of our different posts. Then I'm going to come here and add a different single select. We'll call it platform. And I'm going to add x/Twitter. And I'll go ahead and create the field. I'll move this here. I'm going to delete assignee. And then I'm going to adjust the status here. I'm going to change this to idea, approve, publish, and done. Click save. And now we have the makings for our own custom content system. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. I'm going to say this is my second tweet from Mixpost now using Airtable. I'll go ahead and pick the platform Twitter. And for the status, it's no longer an idea. If it was something that we wanted to approve, we could move it to approve. And just so you know, in Airtable, just a little quick lesson, it'd be very easy to create different views for how this status was set so that you could create workflow. So we could have a view here for ideas, then I could duplicate it. This would be for approvals. So here, if we were in ideas, we could just adjust this filter to only show the status is idea. And then we would only see ideas here. My third post. And then if we just wanted to see what needed approvals, then we could adjust this filter to status is approve. And then we could have one just for what needs to be published. So status is publish. And then what we can do is any row that is in this particular view, once I update this to publish, then we can look for anything in this particular view to actually publish in our make automation. So let's come back to approvals. Let's go ahead and move this one to publish. So now we have this here. So now I should be able to come to make. Going to start with a new scenario. Now this time I'm going to use an Airtable module. I'm going to go ahead and search records. And now I would be able to set up this particular trigger to operate at some schedule. By default, it'll run every 15 minutes. There are arguably better ways to trigger, but just to get the point across, we're going to start here. And now we're going to search for our base. You want to make sure you either add a new connection to the base that you are building here, or select a connection that does have access to that particular base. I'm going to use one of my existing connections here. I'm going to select the base Mixpost. We're going to go with the demo app. There's only one table here, so I'm going to go ahead and select content. And now here you can see that we can select the view and only the rows that are in publish. Now I'll go ahead and just select all so that I get all of the data every time I run this automation. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now, if I go ahead and run this, it should bring back one row here. And the caption is, this is my second tweet from Mixpost now using Airtable. So now all we need to do is call the Mixpost API on our server with this new information. So I'm going to go ahead and add another module here. We're going to add the HTTP module, and we're going to go ahead and make a request. Now for the URL, you can just copy this from Postman. I'm going to come back to the text post, just grab this URL here. Going to drop that in right here. Then for the method, you're going to want to update that to post. For the headers, you'll want to expand that. Here, we're going to type authorization. And then for the value, we can grab this from Postman as well. We're going to head to the headers. You can see how these two really line up. That is our calls that we make on Postman compared to our make automations here. Same information, just presented differently. Going to go ahead and grab this here, put that value here. And now for body type, I'm going to go ahead and select raw. For content type, we'll go with JSON application JSON. And for the request content, we can literally just come back to Postman and we can come up here to the body and we can simply copy this entire JSON here, copy, and we can paste that into the request content here. And sometimes if you expand this, it's a little bit more readable. Now, the main thing we do want to replace here is this hard-coded text, which was the tweet that we had in Postman. And we want to bring the data in from Airtable. So I'm going to delete that. Notice I have the quotes here. Now we want to grab and insert the caption. So if you want, you can also just drag it in between those two quotes. So it's there. Now when this automation runs, it's going to pass in this data, but it's going to actually put in the caption from Airtable. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I've noticed that sometimes when people copy and paste this from Postman and then they copy it into Make, sometimes they'll get a 400 error that says bad request. If you do get that, double check that you have set this up right. You've put the caption in between the double quotes here, but you can also get rid of all the spaces, get rid of every little space that you see. Sometimes those come across as special characters depending on your system and how it copies and pastes. I think it might happen more on PCs versus Mac, but all you have to do is just go through and remove all of the spaces here to make sure that no special character gets through. As well, if there were any enters like that, you'd want to remove those. So it ended up just being one long line just like this. That doesn't seem to happen with me, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this unless I have the error, then I'll come back and correct it. But this should be okay. I'm going to go ahead and click this parsed response. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. But again, remember, if you get that error, just come through here and remove all of those spaces and any empty characters. And now all we want to do is make sure that we update the Airtable row so that we move the status back to done once it's posted. So I'll come here. We're going to add a new Airtable module. We're going to update a record. We'll use the same base, Mixpost demo app. We'll select the same table. For the record ID, we'll use the record ID that comes from the search here. Go ahead and just grab that ID right there. And now we're just going to update the status. You can turn the map off and then actually select from the dropdown. We'll hit done, and then we'll go ahead and click OK. And then we'll click save. And now let's just go ahead and run this manually. We can check here, status code 201. Looks like it was scheduled. Looks like Airtable was updated. So if we come to Airtable, notice it's no longer in this view. Let's duplicate this real quick. Make done. Filtered by status. Done. So now we see the Mixpost that's come to our app. There it is. This is my second tweet. Great. So now if I come back over to Twitter, we're going to have our most recent tweet. This is the second tweet from now using Airtable. Go ahead and delete that one. So now I'll just show you how that you would also do an image post. So let's come back to our Airtable database. Let's come back to ideas. I'm also going to add a new column here to the right. We're going to do an attachment field. We'll call it media. We'll create that field. Now this time I'm going to copy in a image from my downloads folder, just a little image, doesn't really matter which one. I'm also noticing I didn't really do anything with this platform here. So if I wanted to, I could add this here so that I was specific to a specific platform. And then in my automation, I could come here and then I could filter out based off of which platform it was. So I could say platform is equal to X/Twitter. So now it would only post if it was that particular platform. So now you might want to set this up a little bit differently or set this up in your automations a bit differently, but that's how you can use this field here to post to specific platforms or not. So let's go ahead and continue on with this image post. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one to publish. That means it's going to be in this view here. And that means that in our automation here, it will find it. But before we do that, we need to mimic what we did in Postman where we uploaded the media first, and then we referenced the ID in the body of the API request. So we're going to come back to Make. Going to go ahead and expand this a bit. We're going to add a module. Here, we are going to download a file. So we'll get a file. Now I don't actually have that placeholder from Airtable here that we added here, the media. It's not showing up yet because we've never run this search with this new column data yet. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. I'm going to go ahead and just break this connection for a second so that I can run this automation. It's going to come back with that my third post. Notice that that attachment's still not there because if we open this search up, we're going to see that we selected the specific columns and that media is now new. So I'm going to select all again, click OK. Then I'll run once again. All right, so now we've got that third post, we've got the media. So now we actually have that URL here. So now we can connect up our HTTP again. We still have that filter for only platform equals to Twitter. In your setup could be a little bit different. Now I'm going to have that URL from the media here. Going to grab that right there. We'll go ahead and click OK. And now we have to simulate the media upload. That's what we did here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new module. We're going to do HTTP. We're going to scroll down. We're going to make a request for the URL. We can jump to Postman. This time we're going to go to the media. We're going to grab this whole section here. Copy in that URL. Now we're going to move this method to post. Again, we've got to add the headers, authorization, and then for the value, again, we can come back to the headers here, grab your bearer token, you can drop that here. Now we need to set up the body type. In this case, we're going to use multi-part form data. This allows us to actually send a file. So for fields, field type, we're going to go with file. The key, if we come back to the body here, was file, and then we can actually map in the file that we downloaded here. So we'll just click this here. We'll go ahead and parse response, click OK, go ahead and click save. And now what we're going to need to do is I need a value from here that so we can update our post. So I'm going to go ahead and just unlink this real quick. I'm going to run this once. Looks like we have an error here. We are unauthorized. So that means something with my URL or the bearer token. We can see what I did here. I totally pasted the wrong value. Come back to the headers. Actually, I see what I did here. Didn't even notice that. So I'm going to go back to one where I didn't mess it up. You probably saw that when I was doing this. Put the bearer token back in there. Add that back here. See how easy it is to make a mistake. Go ahead and click OK. Now I'll run this again. So now we should have a success, and the data is going to give us the ID, and that's the ID we need for this step here. Let's connect it again. So now we have this request content, and you can remember the difference between our text and image was simply that in the content section here, in the image, we added a media and the media ID in those brackets there. So all we need to do is come back here. After body, we can add a comma. And if you want to expand this just so it's a bit easier to read, again, we added a comma here. I'm going to add quote, media, end quote, colon, bracket. And now I can paste in the ID here and then close bracket, and we should be good. So now I'll go ahead and click OK, click save, use the magic align. And now we're going to get the record, download it, upload it to our Mixpost media, then make the post to Twitter, and then update our row as done. So it looks like we have a success 201, jump to Mixpost. We've got it's scheduled, my third post, and we've got the media to our Twitter account. So everything looks good. It's going to take just a second for this to go through the system. And just remember that you don't always have to have this go out immediately. You can create a calendar and post at whatever time you want. You can create queues. You can just put content in a pool and it will schedule that content out automatically at that given time. It's very flexible. Looks like it's posted. Come back to Twitter. And now we've got the third post with the image. I'm going to go ahead and delete. Now, if you want access to these make.com blueprints, so you can simply click on a file, open it up in Make, and have the automation pop right up, along with the Airtable database and template, make sure to jump into the No-Code Architects community. It's an active group. You can get access to all my automation templates for social media and content systems, including the automations you saw today. There's also a Make and Airtable beginner course, courses on growing your AI automation business, and we also have calls almost every single day. I'd love to see you there. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.